Now, I know this is going to be a little bit of a sad topic to start us off, but with it being our big 100th episode, and also being our first upload on PCE Shorts, I just had to touch on the more somber news coming from the creator of Learning with Pibby. Now, show creator Dodge Greenley went to Instagram to post kind of a long thread discussing his emotional journey through the creation of Learning with Pibby. From the pilot garnering millions of views to the April Fool's Day prank on Adult Swim to him trying to sell this show to anyone who would purchase it. It was really somber news to hear of Learning with Pibby's, essentially its death, with the fact that the whole kind of crux of it was surrounding itself with IP and the degradation and the poison of whatever corruption was sprouting up from the show. And without any way of launching the show, Dodge Greenley essentially said it's time for him to move on to other projects. And I know for me and for quite a lot of people around the world, this is very disheartening and very unfortunate to hear, as at least for me, I was extremely excited to see what Learning with Pibby was going to kind of achieve if it was ever greenlit, especially with the fame and adulation that it garnered. Like, it's crazy that something that fits so well with Adult Swim's model was never implemented. And the real heartbreaking part about this whole thing is the creator went on to say that at a certain point, even the mention of Learning with Pibby affected him deeply. And there's definitely an emotional warning here, but he went on to discuss the depression he felt going through it. And after getting properly medicated and therapized, he finally wanted to turn that corner and just move away from Learning with Pibby. And of course, I wanted to show my support, so I provided a comment on his post, and I essentially just said I loved the vision that he had behind this, and if there was ever any way for him to take elements, make it a little bit less legally distinct, make it his own, and go to Glitch or a different YouTube or streaming site variant to help create the show. But at a certain point, you can only be a hopeful fan for so long, because if a piece of content, if the thing they are creating itself is actively affecting their mental health and actively tearing themselves down when fans show their love for it, show artwork, and always ask when it's coming out, if those sentiments are just beating him down and making him feel worse, then at a certain point, we just have to acknowledge that I'm sure Dodge Greenley will move on to do great things, but at least for now, until something changes in terms of the hierarchy of Adult Swim or maybe their perspective on the show, it seems like Learning with Pibby is dead, and that is the most heartbreaking thing for me, because this was a show that was built to succeed. It was one of those IPs that was just guaranteed to garner an audience and actually showcase some really interesting concepts, because like I've talked about previously in this show, Learning with Pibby was all about the corruption of media, taking these fan favorite characters from Hanna-Barbera, from Cartoon Network alike, and allowing this glitchy corruption to just take them over and destroy them. It was such a cool concept, and the fact that Pibby had to team up with these seemingly side characters from animation's past to fight it off, it was going to be great. It was going to actually finally showcase that, hey, this is kind of a representation of how animators are being corrupted by their own workload. But at least that's my interpretation. I don't know if that's what Dodge Greenley initially wanted to propose with his vision with this. But if I were to give Dodge Greenley a message, although fans will still clamor for this to return, if this is something that is actively hurting you and actively affecting your mental health, then you moving on is the best choice. Fans will be heartbroken. I am a little heartbroken, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the well-being and the mental health of the creator themselves. Their projects do not come before themselves. So I'm at least glad that he is finally able to make this turning point and move in a direction that will kind of limit his emotional distress and pain. Now, there's one final thing I'd like to add, and maybe it'll provide a little bit of solace for those of you that are pining for what Learning with Pibby could have been, and that is the fact that we actually have a full pilot storyboard for the first episode. Now, I don't know if this is linked to the original creator, Dodge Greenley. I don't know if this is associated with Adult Swim. All I do know is this was posted on the Max World YouTube channel on July 1st of 2024 with an original link to the YouTuber 03, and honestly, I still can't believe it took so long to find this. But when taking a brief look at it, it looks very detailed with voice acting and sound effects, and the one thing they did reveal, which is kind of a spoiler, so spoiler warning, but they revealed that the corruption that is destroying animation is essentially Gen Z, because we see the corruption spout out a lot of current day terms like lit and fam. So I just think it's really cool how this educational preschool show that's designed to teach kids basic knowledge and learning skills, the corruption is that which takes away from the learning skills, like brain rot and all our shorthanding for all our vocabulary, which kind of just makes us dumber as a species. But yeah, I think it's kind of funny how a show centered around a preschool education vibe has an antagonist that is essentially brain rot. But at least it's something. At the end of the day, we have this. But that's pretty much everything I have to discuss in this somber bit of news. I will always love Learning with Pibby, but at a certain point, we just have to be happy with what we have. We have the trailer, we have the April Fool's Day prank, and maybe that's enough. Because for Dodge and for probably the entire team that worked on it, it's best that they just move on to other projects. To use their creative minds in a way that won't destroy themselves, essentially. But at this point, I think it's time for me to send it back to me and my friends as we discuss Oblivion's remake.